Someone disrespects you. Maybe they insult you in public. Maybe they dismiss your work. Maybe they undermine you in front of others. Or maybe they simply treat you as though you're invisible, as though your presence and your words carry no weight. And in that moment, every fiber of your being wants to react. You want to argue your case, to prove them wrong, to make them see your value. Or worse, you want to beg for the respect you feel you deserve, to explain yourself, to justify your worth. But here's what the wise understand that most people never learn. The moment you argue or beg for respect, you've already given it away. If you've ever found yourself in an endless argument trying to make someone see your point, if you've ever heard yourself explaining your value to someone who clearly doesn't see it, if you've ever walked away from a confrontation feeling smaller even though you said everything you wanted to say, this is for you. And if you're ready to learn how the truly powerful respond to disrespect, subscribe now, because what we're about to explore will change how you move through conflict forever. The Stoics lived in a world of rigid hierarchies, political intrigue, and constant challenges to honor and reputation. In Rome, your dignitas, your public standing, was everything. Men killed over insults. Families feuded for generations over perceived slights. And yet, the Stoic philosophers taught something radical: that true dignity comes from within, not from others' recognition of it, and that defending your reputation through argument is often the surest way to damage it. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote in his private journals, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about the profound contradiction he's pointing to. You claim to value yourself, yet you'll twist yourself into knots trying to get someone who doesn't respect you to change their mind. You'll debase yourself arguing with someone whose opinion shouldn't matter to you. You'll beg for recognition from people who've already shown you they're not capable of seeing your worth. When someone disrespects you, what they're really doing is revealing something about themselves: their insecurity, their lack of awareness, their own wounds. But when you argue or beg in response, you make it about you. You accept the premise that their perception has validity, that you need to correct it, that your worth is actually in question. And in accepting that premise, you've lost before the argument even begins. Research in social psychology confirms what the Stoics understood intuitively. Engaging in arguments about your value or character rarely changes minds and almost always damages your standing. The backfire effect shows that when people are confronted with evidence that contradicts their beliefs, they often double down rather than change their minds. Trying to argue someone out of their disrespect doesn't work because disrespect isn't usually based on a rational assessment you can counter with better arguments. It's based on their need to feel superior, their envy, their inability to recognize value, or simple ignorance. Think about what actually happens when you engage. Someone makes a dismissive comment about your work. Instead of letting it pass, you launch into a detailed defense of your approach, your credentials, your results. You think you're setting the record straight, but watch what you've actually done. You've given that person's opinion enough weight to warrant a defense. You've shown that their assessment matters enough to you that you'll spend your time and energy trying to change it. You've revealed that you need their validation, and now they have power over you. They've learned that they can get a reaction, that they can occupy your thoughts, that they can make you dance by simply withholding the respect you're seeking. Every argument is another dance, another performance where you're trying to earn something they've already shown they won't freely give. You become a supplicant in your own life, constantly making your case to judges who have no interest in fairly evaluating the evidence. Epictetus, who knew what it meant to be truly powerless, he was a slave for most of his early life, taught that the only true power is the power to control your own mind and reactions. He wrote, "If someone criticizes you, agree with them immediately. Say, if you knew all my faults, you would have more to criticize. This isn't sarcasm or passive aggression. This is the refusal to play the game. It's the recognition that someone else's opinion is their business, not yours, and that defending yourself to them gives them power they don't deserve. Consider the energy economy of arguing or begging. Every minute you spend trying to convince someone of your worth is a minute not spent building something that demonstrates your worth. Every ounce of emotional energy you pour into defending yourself to someone who's already decided not to see you as energy unavailable for your actual growth and contribution. The wise understand that time and energy are finite resources, and they refuse to invest them in unwinnable battles with people whose respect ultimately doesn't matter. This isn't about being passive or accepting mistreatment. This is about being strategic with where you place your attention and your effort. Some people are worth engaging with. Some conflicts are worth addressing. But disrespect from people who don't matter to your life or your mission. Disrespect from people who've shown they lack the capacity for fair judgment. That's not worth a single word of defense. The truly powerful move through disrespect like water moves around a rock. They don't stop to argue with the rock. They don't try to convince the rock to move. They simply flow around it and continue on their path. The rock remains a rock, and the water remains water, and the water reaches the ocean while the rock sits exactly where it was. This is the Stoic way. Recognize what you cannot change, other people's perceptions, judgments, and capacity for respect, and focus entirely on what you can change. Your own reactions, your own choices, your own path forward. Seneca watched powerful men destroy themselves trying to defend their reputations against every slight and rumor. He saw senators consumed with worry about what people said about them, spending their lives in reactive mode, always defending, always explaining, always trying to control the narrative. And he saw how this consumed them, how they became smaller in their obsession with how they appeared to others. He wrote, "A consciousness of wrongdoing is the first step to salvation." You have to catch yourself doing it before you can correct it. The wrongdoing isn't in being disrespected. That's outside your control. The wrongdoing is in caring so much about that disrespect that you'll compromise your dignity by arguing or begging. You have to catch yourself in the moment when you feel that urge to defend, to explain, to make your case. That's the moment of choice. That's where your power lies. When you feel the impulse to argue, pause and ask, what am I trying to achieve here? Usually, the honest answer is, I'm trying to make this person see my worth. And then ask, is this person's recognition of my worth necessary for my life or my mission? Almost always, the answer is no. They're not your employer, not your partner, not your mentor, not someone whose opinion shapes opportunities that matter to you. They're just someone with an opinion, and opinions are cheap. Everyone has them. Most are worthless. Marcus Aurelius, dealing with courtiers who schemed against him and senators who questioned his judgment, reminded himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He didn't say this with bitterness. He said it with preparation. He was reminding himself that disrespect is part of the human experience, that many people operate from their worst selves, and that he would not be moved by it. He would not waste his energy arguing with their nature or begging for their better treatment. This preparation is crucial. When you expect respect from everyone, every instance of disrespect feels like a crisis that demands response. But when you understand that disrespect is inevitable, that many people lack the capacity for fair judgment or basic decency, then each instance becomes merely expected human behavior. Not personal, not a referendum on your worth, just data about who that person is and how they move through the world. The wise handle disrespect by refusing to dignify it with a response. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Not because they're afraid of conflict, but because they understand that some conflicts diminish everyone involved. They handle it by maintaining their composure, their direction, their focus on what actually matters. They handle it by letting their work speak, by letting their character speak, by letting results speak, because these speak far louder than any argument ever could. Let's go deeper into why arguing and begging fail so spectacularly, because understanding the mechanism helps you resist the temptation when it arises. At the core, both arguing and begging come from the same place: the belief that if you can just say the right thing, present the right evidence, make the right case, you can control how someone perceives you. This belief is both deeply human and completely wrong. Human perception is not primarily rational. It's not a neutral computer processing data and arriving at logical conclusions. It's a complex system of biases, emotional associations, ego protection, social positioning, and narrative building. When someone has decided to disrespect you, that decision is usually serving some purpose for them. Maybe it elevates their status in their own mind. Maybe it protects them from having to acknowledge their own inadequacy. Maybe it aligns with a story they've told themselves about who they are and who you are. Your argument, no matter how logical or well presented, is threatening that purpose. And humans are remarkably skilled at defending their existing beliefs against threatening information. Cognitive dissonance theory shows that when people encounter information that contradicts their beliefs, they experience psychological discomfort and work to reduce it, not by changing their beliefs, but by dismissing, distorting, or ignoring the contradictory information. So when you present evidence of your competence to someone who's decided you're incompetent, their mind doesn't neutrally process that evidence. It finds reasons to dismiss it. They got lucky. That was easy. Anyone could have done that. They're just showing off. Your evidence becomes more proof to them of the story they already believe, that you're overcompensating, that you're desperate for validation, that you're not as good as you want people to think. This is why arguing rarely works. You're not actually arguing about the facts. You're arguing against a narrative that's serving an emotional or social purpose for them, and narratives are much stickier than facts. People will twist themselves into logical pretzels to maintain a narrative that protects their ego or social position. And every argument you present gives them more opportunities to practice these mental gymnastics, more opportunities to cement their original position. Begging is even worse because it explicitly communicates that you need their respect, that you're incomplete without it, that they have something you lack. You've just handed them all the power. You've confirmed their superiority by demonstrating your inferiority through the very act of pleading. No one respects someone who begs for respect. It's a performative contradiction. The act undermines the goal. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that begging for anything, approval, recognition, fair treatment, is fundamentally incompatible with dignity. Not because dignity is about pride or superiority, but because dignity is about self-sufficiency. It's about having everything you need within yourself. When you beg, you're announcing that you don't have everything you need, that you require something from someone else to be whole. And that announcement is heard loud and clear. Seneca wrote extensively about the proper relationship to favors and obligations. He argued that you should never put yourself in a position where you need to beg, because needing to beg means you've already made yourself dependent on someone else's goodwill. And dependence is the opposite of freedom. The Stoic goal is freedom from external control, from the whims of others, from the need for validation or approval that you don't freely receive. So what do you do instead? How do the wise actually handle disrespect in practical terms? The first strategy is the one we've been building toward: conscious non-engagement. When someone disrespects you and it doesn't actually threaten something concrete and important, your safety, your livelihood, your mission, you simply don't engage. You let it pass like clouds passing across the sky. You observe it, you note it, and you continue on your path. This is much harder than it sounds because your ego will scream at you to respond. Your ego is the part of you that's built on external validation, on how others see you, on your social standing. When that's threatened, the ego panics. It demands that you do something, say something, make them understand. This is where the Stoic practice of observing your thoughts without being controlled by them becomes crucial. You notice the thought, I need to correct this person's misunderstanding. You notice the feeling, anger, hurt, indignation. You notice the impulse, to argue, to defend, to make your case. And then you do something radical. You don't act on any of it. You let it all be there, the thought, the feeling, the impulse, and you choose a different response. You choose silence. You choose to continue with what you were doing. You choose to give this person and their disrespect exactly 0 seconds more of your attention. This is what the Stoics called voluntary discomfort. You're uncomfortable with letting the disrespect stand unanswered. Every instinct says respond, and you're voluntarily sitting with that discomfort instead of reactively relieving it through argument. This discomfort is temporary. It passes. But the dignity you preserve by not engaging is permanent. And the lesson you teach, to yourself and to anyone watching, about what kind of person you are, that's permanent too. The second strategy is strategic withdrawal. If someone consistently disrespects you and you have the option to remove them from your life, do it. Don't announce it. Don't make a speech about it. Don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. Just gradually and systematically reduce their access to you. Be busy when they want your time. Be brief when interaction is unavoidable. Redirect your energy toward people who appreciate you. This isn't about revenge. This is about resource allocation. Your time, attention, and energy are your most valuable resources. Why would you continue investing them in someone who's shown they don't value you? It's not personal. It's practical. You're simply choosing to invest your finite resources where they're appreciated and reciprocated. This is basic emotional economics. Marcus Aurelius had to deal with senators and advisors he couldn't remove from his life entirely. His position required interaction with them. But he maintained internal distance. He reminded himself that their opinions were just opinions, that their disrespect reflected their character, not his worth. He engaged when duty required it, but he didn't invest emotionally. He didn't need their approval. He didn't argue for their respect. He simply executed his responsibilities and maintained his own standards regardless of their assessment. This internal distance is something anyone can practice. You can be physically present with someone while maintaining inner separation from their judgments. You can hear their words without internalizing their message. You can observe their disrespect without accepting its validity. This is the Stoic practice of maintaining your own counsel, of being the ultimate judge of your own worth. The third strategy is excellence as its own defense. Instead of arguing about your competence, become undeniably competent. Instead of explaining your value, create value so obvious it speaks for itself. Instead of defending your character, live with such integrity that accusations look absurd to anyone paying attention. This takes longer than an argument. It requires patience and faith that quality eventually becomes visible. But it's the only defense that actually works. Consider how this plays out in practice. Someone dismisses your work as mediocre. You could spend an hour arguing about why it's actually good, listing all your qualifications and past successes. Or you could spend that hour making your next piece of work even better. In a year, which approach will have done more for your reputation? The person who spent the year arguing is known as defensive and insecure. The person who spent the year creating is known by their body of work. This is the long game that the Stoics always played. They knew that reputation is built over time through consistent action, not through defending against every criticism. They knew that the people who matter, the people with good judgment who can actually recognize quality, will see your work for what it is regardless of what others say. And the people who can't see it, their blindness is not your problem to fix. Epictetus told his students, if someone speaks badly of you, you should not try to correct them. Instead, you should say, they clearly don't know my other faults, or they would have mentioned those too. This is the ultimate reframe. Instead of seeing criticism as a threat that needs to be defended against, see it as incomplete information from someone who doesn't know you well. Their assessment is not authoritative because they don't have full data. Why waste energy correcting incomplete assessments from unauthorized judges? There's a particular kind of disrespect that deserves special attention because it's the one that tempts people most powerfully into argument and begging. Disrespect from people who matter to you. A family member who dismisses your life choices. A partner who treats your concerns as invalid. A boss who doesn't recognize your contributions. A friend who takes you for granted. When the disrespect comes from someone whose opinion you actually care about, the Stoic principles become much harder to apply. This is where we need to distinguish between types of relationships and appropriate responses. The Stoic commitment to not arguing or begging doesn't mean tolerating ongoing disrespect from people who should treat you better. It means handling it with dignity and clarity rather than with desperate attempts to change their mind or emotional pleas for different treatment. When someone close to you disrespects you, the wise response is not argument but boundary. You don't explain why their treatment is wrong. If there's someone who truly cares about you, they should already know. You don't beg them to see your value. If there's someone worth keeping close, they should already see it. Instead, you calmly and clearly communicate what you will and will not accept, and you enforce that boundary through action, not words. This looks like, when you speak to me that way, I'll end the conversation. And then you do it. No argument about why they shouldn't speak to you that way. No pleading with them to understand how it makes you feel. Just a clear statement of boundary and consistent enforcement. You're not trying to control their behavior. You're controlling your own, specifically, your willingness to remain in situations where you're disrespected. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like that." When someone close to you disrespects you, the temptation is to respond in kind, to disrespect them back, to punish them, to make them feel what they've made you feel. But this just confirms that you're both operating at the same level. The wise response is to remain at your standard while making it clear that continued access to you requires them to rise to a minimum standard too. This is hard because it often means being willing to lose relationships you value. A friend who consistently dismisses you may need to become a former friend. A romantic partner who doesn't respect you may need to become an ex. A family member who undermines you may need to become someone you see much less frequently. The Stoic acceptance of loss comes into play here. You can't control whether they choose to treat you with respect. You can only control whether you choose to accept their disrespect. Many people stay in disrespectful relationships because they keep arguing and begging, hoping that eventually the other person will see the light and change. They think, if I can just make them understand, they'll treat me better. But years pass, thousands of words are spoken, and nothing changes. Why? Because the problem was never a lack of understanding. The problem is that the other person has decided, consciously or unconsciously, that they can disrespect you without consequence. They've learned through experience that you'll stay regardless, that you'll accept whatever treatment they offer, that your boundaries are made of words, not action. The Stoic wisdom is, stop arguing about respect and start requiring it through your choices. Don't tell them they need to respect you. Show them, through your willingness to walk away, that respect is the price of access to you. Some will rise to meet that price. Those are the relationships worth keeping. Some won't. Those are the relationships you're better off without, regardless of how long they've been part of your life or how much you wish they were different. Seneca was exiled by people he considered friends, people he had helped and supported. He could have spent his exile writing letters begging them to reconsider, arguing his case, trying to make them see how unjust their actions were. Instead, he used the time to write philosophy, to develop his thinking, to create works that would outlast all of them. He released his attachment to their recognition of his worth and found his worth in his work itself. The friendships that were worth maintaining survived his exile. The ones that weren't ended. And his life was richer for the clarity. This brings us to perhaps the most difficult lesson. Sometimes the relationship you need to examine is your relationship with your own need for respect. Why do you need it so badly from this particular person? What are you trying to prove? What wound are you trying to heal? Often, the desperate need for a specific person's respect is really about something else. Validation of a choice you're uncertain about. Compensation for a deeper insecurity. Proof that you're worthy that you don't fully believe yourself. The Stoics would say, work on believing it yourself first. Work on building your self-respect to the point where others' disrespect becomes merely their problem, not yours. Work on knowing your own worth so deeply that external validation becomes nice when it comes but unnecessary for your well-being. This is the real work, and it's much harder than arguing or begging. It requires genuine self-development, not just rhetorical skill or emotional manipulation. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of his own mortality and smallness in the cosmic scope. Soon you'll be ashes or bones. A mere name at most, and even that is just a sound, an echo. He wasn't being morbid. He was putting everything, including others' opinions of him, into perspective. In 100 years, everyone who disrespects you today will be dead. Their opinion will have ceased to exist. Your legacy, if you have one, will be based on what you built and how you lived, not on whether you successfully argued everyone into respecting you. This perspective doesn't make disrespect pleasant, but it makes it manageable. It makes it possible to let go of the need to correct every wrong impression, to change every negative judgment. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will judge you unfairly. Some will disrespect you despite your best efforts. And in the grand scope of a life, these misunderstandings and misjudgments matter less than you think they do in the heated moment when they occur. The wise accept this. They don't fight against the reality that judgment is imperfect, that respect is not always given to those who deserve it, that unfairness is part of the human experience. They accept it and focus on what they can control: their own actions, their own standards, their own character development. They let their life be their argument, knowing that this is the only argument that truly persuades anyone worth persuading. As we approach the conclusion, let's talk about what actually happens when you stop arguing and begging, when you fully commit to the Stoic way of handling disrespect. Because there are consequences, both immediate and long-term, and you need to be prepared for them if you're going to walk this path with confidence. The immediate consequence is discomfort. When someone disrespects you and you don't respond, when you let it hang in the air unanswered, it feels wrong. Every social instinct you have says you should defend yourself. The silence feels like agreement. The lack of argument feels like admission of fault. Your ego will torture you with thoughts of what you should have said, what you could have said, what others must be thinking now that you've said nothing. This discomfort is the price of dignity. You're training yourself out of reactive patterns that society has reinforced since childhood. You're unlearning the idea that you need to defend yourself against every criticism or correct every misunderstanding. This unlearning is uncomfortable, but discomfort is not the same as wrongness. Sometimes the most correct path is the most uncomfortable one, and learning to tolerate this discomfort without reactively relieving it is part of building Stoic resilience. The second consequence is that some people will mistake your non-engagement for weakness. They'll interpret your refusal to argue as inability to defend yourself. They'll see your silence as confirmation that their disrespect was justified. This is unavoidable. Some people only understand power expressed through dominance and verbal combat. When you don't engage on those terms, they assume you can't, not that you won't. The Stoic response is, let them think what they want. Their misinterpretation doesn't change reality. A lion doesn't need to argue with sheep about what makes a predator. The lion simply is what it is, and the sheep's ignorance doesn't diminish that. You're playing a different game than they are. You're building long-term character and reputation through action. They're playing status games through argument. You'll both end up exactly where your different approaches lead, and one of those destinations is far better than the other. The third consequence, and this is the one that makes the practice worthwhile, is that you reclaim tremendous mental energy. Think about how much time and emotional bandwidth you've spent over your life engaging with disrespect. The hours-long arguments that go nowhere. The imaginary conversations you have in your head with people who wronged you. The energy spent crafting the perfect comeback or defense. The sleep lost to ruminating about what someone said or how they treated you. When you stop engaging, all of that energy becomes available for other things. For building, for creating, for deepening relationships with people who actually matter, for developing skills that make you undeniably capable, for pursuing goals that fulfill you. The opportunity cost of arguing with disrespect is enormous, and most people never calculate it because they're so focused on each individual instance. But when you zoom out and see the accumulated cost over months and years, it's staggering. Seneca wrote about this explicitly. He calculated how much of people's lives they waste on things that don't matter, on worry, on seeking approval from fools, on defending themselves against criticism from people whose judgment is worthless. He argued that most people complain life is short, but really they waste most of the life they're given. Time spent arguing for respect from someone who's shown they can't give it. That's wasted time. Time that could have gone towards something that actually matters. The fourth consequence is that you naturally filter for quality relationships. When you stop tolerating disrespect, when you require a minimum standard of treatment as the price of access to you, some people leave your life. Good. They were making your life worse, even if you didn't fully realize it. The energy they were taking, the negativity they were introducing, the constant need to defend or explain yourself, all of that leaves with them. And space opens up, space for relationships with people who naturally treat you well, who see your value without needing to be convinced of it, who engage with you as equals rather than as judges or superiors. These relationships don't require argument or begging because there's mutual respect from the start. These are the relationships that actually contribute to your life rather than drain it. The Stoics talked about surrounding yourself with people of character, with those who support virtue in themselves and others. When you stop arguing and begging, you're essentially implementing a filter. You're making it uncomfortable for people of poor character to remain close to you while making it easy and pleasant for people of good character. Over time, this passive filtering creates a social environment that supports your growth rather than hindering it. The fifth consequence is the most profound. You develop genuine self-respect. Not the brittle, defensive kind that requires constant validation. not the fake kind that's really just ego pretending to be confidence, but real self-respect based on the knowledge that you have standards, that you enforce your boundaries, that you don't debase yourself for others' approval. This self-respect changes how you move through the world. You carry yourself differently. You make eye contact differently. You speak differently, not because you're faking confidence, but because you genuinely respect yourself enough not to need everyone else's respect. And paradoxically, this often leads to more respect from others. People sense self-respect. They sense when someone knows their own worth. And most people, most of the time, treat you roughly how you treat yourself. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As emperor, he could have demanded respect, enforced it through power, punished anyone who showed disrespect. But he knew that forced respect isn't real respect, and it doesn't satisfy the need for validation that drives people to argue and beg. Real respect comes from being respectable, from living with integrity, treating others fairly, maintaining your standards, and refusing to compromise your character for approval. So here's where we end up after this exploration. Arguing for respect doesn't create respect. It demonstrates that you don't have it, from yourself or others. Begging for respect is a contradiction in terms. The act of begging undermines what you're seeking. The wise handle disrespect through non-engagement with those who don't matter, clear boundaries with those who do, and continuous development of their own character regardless of others' assessment. Let's bring this together with the key insights we've covered. We started by recognizing that arguing and begging give away the very thing you're trying to protect, your dignity and self-respect. We explored why these approaches fail psychologically and socially, why human perception is not primarily rational, and why trying to control others' judgments is a losing game. We distinguished between worthwhile and worthless